Hi and welcome to Infertility Dialogues. I'm Supriya and this series is my attempt to start conversations around infertility. So today I'm going to talk about something very interesting. This is actually a question a friend of mine came up with after watching the last few videos. And her question is around egg freezing. So she's around 30 years old, has PCOS and has been advised by her doctor to have a baby as soon as possible, which she doesn't want to do for whatever reasons. So she wanted to check with me if egg freezing is a viable option and is that something she should explore and freeze her eggs today so that whenever she's ready, she can use those eggs to have a baby. And I thought that's very interesting because egg freezing has been in the news recently. There are celebrities who have successfully frozen their eggs at a younger age and have used them later to become mothers. But does it make sense for people like you and me? And so that's what I want to deep dive into. What are some of the things you should consider before making that decision? So egg freezing definitely sounds attractive, right? I mean, freeze my eggs today, later whenever I'm ready, they're available for me to have a baby. I've sort of paused my biological clock in a certain way. But it's not all that hunky-dory. Granted that as we grow older, our egg quality deteriorates, right? So it makes sense to save the eggs while they're in their prime, to say, but it's not that easy to do, right? It takes a lot of pain, effort, resources to be able to freeze your eggs, and it still doesn't give you guarantee that it will result in a baby later on when you're ready for it. So here's what I want you to consider, and I'm going to give you my example because I did a lot of egg freezing while I was undergoing that IVF treatment, and here's the maths, right? So I had to undergo 5 or 6 egg retrieval procedures to ensure I had enough eggs, which ultimately resulted in 8 embryos, right? 8 embryos means 4 chances of implant. So you basically get 4 chances to make a baby. And given the overall, 30 to 40% success rate, like I said, there is no guarantee. And egg freezing has a cost. So from a procedural standpoint, of course, clinically, it's completely possible because it's an identical procedure to IVF. Only one stage is missing. So in IVF, I explained it in my last video that, you retrieve your eggs and then later they use a sperm to fertilize the eggs and then transfer the embryo back in. Here that whole creation of embryo and transfer stage is dropped to be done at a later stage whenever you want to have a baby. After egg retrieval, your eggs are cryopreserved. Okay, so cryopreservation happens in tubes. Every tube can hold 3 to 4 eggs and then they are frozen for as long as you want them to. But you pay the cost per tube. Every tube can cost anywhere from 15 to 30,000 rupees per annum to freeze. Now I'm sure there are clinics who are offering long-term freezing packages, but that depends on where you are and what you have access to, right? So essentially, let's say you underwent the egg retrieval process. You had to go through 2 to 3 retrievals to get a bunch of eggs that are viable enough to be frozen. And then you've decided, let's say you now have 12 eggs, so you've decided to take 4 tubes to freeze them. That's a recurring cost of 80,000 rupees every year if you take 20,000 rupees per tube freezing cost, right? So other than the 1 to 2 lakh rupees per egg retrieval that you would have spent, now you have this additional expense coming up every year for as long as you want to continue freezing them, right? Now that's a big financial drain. And that's a commitment. That's basically like taking an insurance, right? So you're taking an insurance against infertility or against not being able to have a baby, and therefore you have to pay for this. Is that something that is workable for you? That's up to you to decide. Right? Now let's say you did the entire egg retrieval process, which was very successful. You were able to get good quality eggs and a large number of eggs. You've frozen them, and after a couple of years you decide that okay, now it's time for me to have a baby, and you unfreeze those eggs. If you have frozen 10 to 12 eggs, it's not likely that all of them will be in a good condition after they're being unfrozen, right? Because cryopreservation does have a detrimental effect too. So whatever the number of eggs that you had frozen, expect a little less to be viable for fertilization when they're unfrozen. So now comes the fertilization procedure, which is the same as what I spoke about in IVF. you have your unfrozen eggs, you mix it with a sperm sample, either from a donor or from your partner, and embryos are created. Now these embryos again could be good quality, could not be great quality. So depending on how many eggs you had, how many embryos, how many of them were fertilized, you figure out the number of good quality fertilized embryos will be much less, right? So you've gone through the whole process to maybe ultimately have 3 or 4 attempts at getting pregnant, and I feel that's a very low probability that we're looking at. But again, it's, things work out for different folks. For some, there is success in the first attempt that they ever make, and for some, like me, even after multiple 3-year-long attempts, I wasn't able to conceive by myself and ultimately had to use a surrogate. So what IVF and infertility treatments are not a very exact science. There's a lot of factors that impact them, and how it works out for you is anybody's guess. But that said, I'm not a medical practitioner, so before taking any step, please go speak to your doctor and follow their advice. I'm just sharing my opinion based on the experience that I've been through. I love the questions that are coming in though, and please keep sending them over. Subscribe to the link below to follow through on the other videos as well, and I will see you next time. Thank you.